Oh, Halloween is a little bit dark-sided, but I just love seeing all the precious trick-or-treaters. So I got some candy. I'm going to spread the word of the Lord. Well, princess, here's for you. Oh, a superhero, here's for you. Oh my God, is that a teeny tiny Bob the Builder? Do you know who else was the builder? Jesus. Wait, little Bob the Builder, stop. Hand that back to me. I've seen your mama in the EBT line. I know your family uses SNAP, so I have something else for you. This is what you'll get for trick or treat from me this year, okay? Because you do not deserve treats. Move on. Oh, another sweet little group of trick-or-treaters. Do you know what is the best type of congregating we can do in the name of the Lord? Oh, a vampire. We're cutting the edge. Okay, there you go. All kids deserve sweets, right? Hey, and then a teeny tiny little mouse. Nope, 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 nope. I know your mama too. Y'all are on SNAP. Here's a happy trick-or-treat, baby. If your mama had spent her EBT on things that are important, you know, like dried meats, dry beans, dry rice, millet, etc., well, then this country wouldn't be in such a shambles. Now, would it? You wouldn't need any snaps. Move on. Oh, yes, to all the sweet, beautiful children. Just live as Christ did. Be giving, loving, welcoming to your neighbor. Are your mama and daddy born here? I doubt it. I'm going to assume y'all are on SNAP. So here's your treat. Do you know how many beans are in this can? At least 400. You have 2 beans a day. That's 800 days of food you got. Okay? Maybe if you had lived like this, you wouldn't be needing money from the government to feed you and your children. Should be ashamed. Remember, the Lord loves us all. Keep Christ in the center of your hearts, and no Halloween trick-or-treaters will be cursed with the dark-sidedness of the devil. Unless, of course, you are on SNAP or EBT, then in which case I don't really care what happens to you, but here's some beans.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Breaking Bread episode, where we analyze the MAGA mind without losing our own sanity or our appetite. And since it's that magical time of year when pumpkins rot on porches and turkeys start writing their wills, what better moment to talk about the ongoing horror show known as Trump's economic disaster? In today's episode, we're looking at how MAGA keeps proving Trump's favorite quote right. Smart people don't like me very much. Well, no kidding, Captain Tangerine. Smart people usually prefer their leaders to read something other than their own name. But Trump doesn't need smart people. He likes them extra crispy, with no seasoning and definitely no critical thinking. He needs the kind of folks who say, I don't do research, I just feel things in my gut. Now, I'm warning you, this episode is a full buffet of emotions. You're gonna laugh, you might get a little mad, and if you're like me, you'll pause halfway through and go, wait, how did we end up here? But more importantly, these videos aren't just for laughs. I've seen so many of you in the comments saying they help you talk to your friends or family who are still deep in the MAGA cult. So shout out to all of you fighting the good fight with logic, facts, and just enough sarcasm to survive Thanksgiving dinner. And speaking of Thanksgiving, MAGA's holiday feast is in jeopardy this year. Yep, apparently the government says there's no money for it. Which is weird because there's always money for nonsense, like the $40 billion care package we just sent to Argentina's rockstar president. I guess we're exporting both beef and bad decisions now. Anyway, if you're new here, welcome aboard the chaos. Around here, we believe in roasting ignorance while breaking bread with reason. And to my OG viewers, you already know what time it is. Grab your snacks, top off your drink, and cue the FAFO energy, because it's about to get deliciously uncomfortable. Oh, and before we roll the clips, a quick note to the comment section philosophers who keep saying you shouldn't do narration or commentary, just post the clips. My friend, that's literally the point. If you just want the raw clips, TikTok's got you covered. But here on Breaking Bread, we don't serve content without thought. We season it, we bake it, and we serve it with a side of insight. All right, that's enough preheating. Let's carve into today's madness. Roll the clips.
Wait, what percentage of Trump voters do you think don't know that food stamps and SNAP benefits are the same thing? Is this an ACA Obamacare type situation? Oh my God, November is coming. Like, how many of them understand that Thanksgiving is going to look a little different this year because they're not getting those food stamps, EBT, SNAP, whatever it is. And some of these fuckers are celebrating. They're celebrating for themselves to go hungry. Oh my God. This is natural selection. We're watching it in real time. Because at least the ones on the left who rely on these benefits didn't vote to lose them. I just looked it up. Pennsylvania stopped giving these benefits on the 16th of October. I just saw a video of a woman saying that she hasn't fed her kids in days, and this would explain it. They're going to starve their own citizens to avoid opening up the government and voting to release the Epstein files. And those starving hillbillies are going to clap for it.
Ah! It's a book! Not just any book! What is it? It's the U.S. Constitution! Ah! Look! It's a cap and gown!
Did you know that the areas being most impacted by Donald Trump's government shutdown and programs like SNAP, Head Start, and more expiring is Republican rural areas? Donald Trump is right now screwing over his own voters. And meanwhile, Trump is building a ballroom. He's redoing bathrooms in the White House. And just yesterday, he had a lavish Halloween party, which was Great Gatsby themed, right on the nose if you've read the book, where he and his wealthy billionaire buddy friends had these exotic dinners, these expensive drinks, and waiters bringing them food all night. How do these MAGA voters not realize that Donald Trump is laughing at them? They're the same people who made him wealthy, bought his shoes, his cologne, his trading cards. They're the same people who put him back into power. And now they're the same people who are being screwed over by his disastrous policies. And genuinely, I feel for them. No American child should go hungry because of their political affiliation or how their parents voted. No parent should go hungry because of how they voted. But that's the reality we live in. And it's the reality because of Donald Trump. And we can only hope that they realize it, but I'm not holding my breath. It's so mind-boggling.
Hello, and happy October 31st. I don't know what y'all celebrate, so I don't want to, I don't want to offend nobody. So just happy fall solstice or whatever is going on, right? I got on my little orange, but whatever, anywho. So that lady over there is being dragged for filth. And there is nothing that I love more than that lady getting dragged. Why is she getting dragged today? Did y'all see them pictures of the White Hood with them pumpkins? That lady said, I don't give a fuck about all the beans. So she bought all the pumpkins. And the people are mad because they said too many people ain't gonna have no food. They could have made pumpkin pie, pumpkin squash, pumpkin mash. They could have made casseroles. They could have made soup. But no, your bitch ass had to buy them pumpkins just to line them up and down the steps. So a lot of people are upset because people are gonna go hungry in the next few weeks because of the government shutdown. And you done bought up all these pumpkins.
Y'all, I got some tea to spill that is unfortunate and real. So apparently, I got to change glasses for this. Apparently, there are people in the South that are freaking out because they did not realize that their food assistance was called SNAP. Because they were under the impression that SNAP was only for people of color. They honestly thought that the SNAP benefits, which was used to be called the food stamp program, it used to be called food stamps, they changed it to SNAP to take away the stigma. They didn't realize EBT, WIC, and all of that all are under the SNAP program, I believe WIC is. They honestly thought it was separated by race. And I'm just sitting here in just awe and gross disdain that they are going to lose the benefits they had because they were so misled about what these benefits are and who they go to. Y'all, there is no such thing as race-based aid. Everyone can get the same aid in the United States. You just have to prove that you are in financial need. But apparently, the MAGA acolytes and the MAGA zealots led themselves to believe that food stamps were only for people of color and they were on something else. And now they're about to lose the benefits that they needed. I don't know what is a better example of the blind leading the blind or the dumb leading the stupid, but this is insane, and why reading is fundamental. These are one and the same, just like so many people don't realize the ACA is the same as Obamacare. They're like, oh, I like the ACA, that helped my mother when she was sick, but I think Obamacare is bad.
It's a book! Not just any book! What is it? It's the U.S. Constitution!
You know what blows my mind? The fact that MAGA still thinks immigrants are the reason their lives are falling apart. Like, bro, nobody's sneaking across the border to take your tractor job in Nebraska. But that's the lie they've been spoon-fed for years, that immigrants are stealing their opportunities, their benefits, and apparently their God-given right to complain about everything while doing nothing to fix it. And it's funny. Well, not funny haha, more like funny oh no we're doomed, how these same folks will proudly say, we don't take handouts, we work hard for what we have, while cashing government checks labeled farm subsidies or disaster relief. They've been lied to so deeply that they genuinely think their benefits are different from welfare. And that's not new. This playbook is ancient. It goes all the way back to the Jim Crow era. Back then, when poor white Americans were given government assistance, it was called commodities or surplus. But when black Americans got the same help, it was labeled food stamps. Same program, same money, different name, because heaven forbid a white man feel like he's on welfare. So, they changed the label and boom, suddenly poverty was respectable, as long as it had the right branding. Fast forward to now, and MAGA's still running the same script. They'll tell you they're not on welfare, they're just getting assistance to help the hard-working American. Meanwhile, the neighbor down the road with an EBT card gets shamed like they're personally bankrupting the nation. It's wild how much language shapes perception. Psychologists call it semantic framing, the way certain words trigger emotional or behavioral responses. Once your brain builds a pathway that says welfare equals lazy, you automatically treat people on assistance as lesser, even when you're literally on the same kind of assistance with a different label. And MAGA wears that disconnect like a badge of honor. They'll tell you they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, but can't explain that those straps were government-funded. They talk about pride, grit, and independence, while simultaneously living in a subsidized reality that keeps them afloat, one they'll never call welfare because Fox News told them only other people get that. And that's how the con works. Keep them uneducated, keep them emotional, and most importantly, keep them convinced that someone poorer, darker, or foreign is to blame for everything wrong in their lives. It's not about truth. It's about control through language. So next time someone says, I don't take handouts, just smile and ask them how those commodities are tasting this year. Because apparently, if it's government cheese but comes with a flag on the label, it's not welfare. It's patriotism on a plate.
And EBT benefits need to go back to basics. They were created to help people get by, not live a life of luxury on the taxpayer's dime.
So that's called dignity policing, which comes from the idea that poverty should look humble. For more on that, let's go to the research. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Shauna, and I'm a PhD who does hot takes with citations. This is part 1 of a 5-part series where I'm going to be breaking down specifically this video that I'm stitching based on 5 different theories that I think to help explain all of the different myths and stereotypes that we keep seeing around people who use SNAP benefits and food stamps. So let's go back to dignity policing and this idea that you should look humble. What this ends up meaning is that if you're struggling, you should act like it in a way that is convincing to other people. In other words, there's a specific performance that people want of poverty. Often, they want you to be quiet, grateful, as this creator said, and visibly deprived. Any sign of joy or self-expression often gets read as proof that you don't deserve or need help. Sociologist Alison Pugh calls this the dignity of consumption. And what that means is that even small purchases like a new outfit or a birthday cake or new nails, as people like to talk about, can help folks, specifically help them to feel like they still belong in community life. The trick is that when poor people do it, we treat it like a moral failure. Like I've discussed in previous videos, study shows that moral emotional content spreads so much faster. Outrage about someone buying chips with EBT gets people really worked up, and that means engagement, so the platform keeps feeding it to us. And here's the truth. The average SNAP benefit is about $6 per day. There's no luxury here, just survival with small moments of normalcy. Because ultimately, dignity policing isn't even about saving tax dollars. It's about controlling who's allowed to feel good. Because we've decided that poor people only deserve to survive, not to thrive. Follow for more hot takes with citations and stay tuned for part 2.
So the night before SNAP benefits were set to run out, which is today, November 1st, Donald Trump threw a opulent gala at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. That's right, where people, drank champagne and dressed in the 1920s Great Gatsby theme. That was the theme of the party. Very opulent, of course, at Mar-a-Lago. And there's Trump just partying away with everyone else, while people are losing sleep and terrified that they're going to not have food in their homes in the coming weeks because SNAP benefits are running out. Now, a judge has come in and said that they have to release contingency funds, but we don't know if we've seen that yet. Nonetheless, while these people couldn't sleep at night around the country knowing that they couldn't feed their children, Trump was just dining away in a Great Gatsby-themed party at his estate in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. And what else can you say? Just, that's who he is, and that's what anyone who supports him is all about.
Breaking news, Miami-Dade County is about to FAFO about SNAP benefits, about Medicaid, and about Affordable Care Act subsidies. What? Yes. Miami-Dade has the highest number of seniors on SNAP benefits of any city in the country. What? Yes, the highest percentage of SNAP benefits. Actually, 25% of the entire county of 2.8 million people are on SNAP benefits. Likewise, when we go to look at Obamacare plans and the Obamacare subsidies, Miami-Dade County, again, has had more applications, in particular in the cities of Hialeah and Doral, of almost any part of the country again. And guess what? SNAP benefits are going to end November 1st, unless they're funded under the contingency fund. If there's any of that fund left, I think they already spent it. And they're going to see the Affordable Care Act subsidies go away and the insurance cost increase substantially so that many can no longer afford it. And guess what? Miami-Dade County voted 55% for Trump and 45% for Kamala Harris. They voted against their SNAP benefits and they voted against their the Affordable Care Act subsidies, Obamacare subsidies, when they put Trump and the Republicans in. Now they're going to lose it, and they are screaming down here about it. So FAFO. Likewise, by the way, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, just to the north, Broward County, 58% from Kamala, 42% for Trump. Quite different here. But Miami-Dade, you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas, you voted for the man, they cut your benefits, they cut your subsidies for your health insurance, you all voted for him, now you get to enjoy your vote. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, my burned out light bulbs, my fellow Floridians, and any of my Cubans and Venezuelans that did not vote for Trump. Love to hear from you too. All of y'all that voted for him, I don't want to hear a peep out of you. You voted for the man. Watch out, slip of the tongue there. What do y'all think?
Let's just pause right there and talk about that PhD lady for a second. You know, the one who spoke on the psychology of how poverty is supposed to look humble. Because honestly, I don't expect MAGA to know what PhD means. They probably think it stands for permanent head damage. But what she said, it hit hard. She talked about how society expects poor people to look poor, quiet, apologetic, and grateful for crumbs. And you can see that mindset alive and well in MAGA world. They want poverty to be visually obedient. No joy, no celebration, no cake. God forbid someone on assistance has a birthday and posts a picture smiling. How dare you enjoy yourself on my taxpayer dollars? MAGA acts like joy has to be means-tested. And now, these same folks are about to lose their SNAP benefits after voting for the guy swinging the axe. Like, seriously? Trump's already messing with their Social Security. And now this? Do they think he's cutting ribbons or cutting lifelines? We're talking about millions of seniors, many of them disabled, who rely on those benefits just to make it through the month. You can't bootstrap your way out of a wheelchair, Brenda. The math is terrifying. According to the USDA, roughly 14% of SNAP recipients are seniors, and another 28% are households with elderly or disabled adults. So when those cuts hit, it's not the freeloaders disappearing, it's grandma skipping dinner so the lights can stay on. But in MAGA's mind, empathy is socialism. If you can't work a double shift at 82, that's on you apparently. And the irony? MAGA seniors are the ones who voted for this chaos. They cheered while Trump promised to cut wasteful spending, not realizing he meant them. It's like watching someone hand a pyromaniac the matches and then call the fire department a liberal conspiracy. Now let's address the most ridiculous myth of all, that people on food stamps don't pay taxes. I don't know who started that fairy tale, but somebody needs to revoke their internet access. The reality is, most SNAP recipients are working people. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, over 60% of SNAP households have at least one employed adult. They pay federal, state, and payroll taxes just like everyone else. They contribute to the same system MAGA thinks they're draining. So when MAGA folks say things like, "My tax dollars shouldn't buy someone's groceries," I just want to ask, which ones? The $6 you paid in taxes off your DoorDash side hustle? Because the average SNAP benefit per person is about $6.10 a day. That's one pumpkin spice latte, Karen. One. The truth is, MAGA's outrage isn't economic. It's psychological. It's the poverty must look punished mindset. They need to see struggle to believe the system's fair. They need to believe they're morally superior because they suffer differently, that their hardship is noble while everyone else's is laziness. That's not politics, that's ego dressed in red, white, and delusion. And this is why the cycle keeps spinning. They've been conditioned, literally psychologically wired, to reject any form of help that doesn't come with humiliation attached. They don't want equality, they want hierarchy. They need to feel like someone's below them, even if that means voting themselves into poverty just to prove it. So yeah, that PhD lady was right. Poverty in America is a costume, and MAGA thinks anyone who refuses to wear it deserves to starve. But the joke's on them, because while they're busy guarding their moral high ground, their benefits, healthcare, and retirement are getting quietly repoed by the same guy they worship like a deity in an orange spray tan. And honestly, at this point, the only thing MAGA should be pulling themselves up by are the bootstraps of common sense.
If the economy is doing so well, why is SNAP getting cut? Where did the $17 trillion that Trump said came from tariffs go? I'm pretty sure we also gained $2 trillion in national debt since last year. Better yet, why are companies like Amazon, Microsoft, UPS, Intel, Nestle, Ford, and others laying off tens of thousands of workers? I thought if you're doing well, you'd be hiring more people, not slimming down. Or at the very least, just not firing people and staying neutral. He's a grifter, he's unintelligent, he's gonna put this country to ruin. This man is actively and openly manipulating stock, he's pumping companies that he has stake in, and he's funding foreign countries that he will profit from. Meanwhile, you still have people in these timelines saying that these tariffs are gonna bring jobs back to the US, or that this man actually cares about making America great again for anyone other than himself and his billionaire buddies. The Supreme Court is having oral arguments on November 5th to determine whether most of his tariffs were illegal to begin with. The literacy rates are already in the gutter, as around 1 in 5 people are illiterate as of 2024, and over half the US population has a literacy rate below 6th grade, meaning every other person in this country struggles with words like mischievous, unanimous, boycott, and condemn. There's a reason there's not enough boycotts and movements going on, and it's because half this country doesn't know what the words mean.
I hate to be the one to break it to y'all, but it was never an open book test. It was never an open book test for MAGA supporters who have finally seen the light now that we're threatening cutting SNAP benefits. I keep reading the comments. It was an open book test. I have no sympathy. It was not an open book test. We don't have the same book. And half of the people who finally have opened their eyes wouldn't have been able to read the book had it been the same to begin with. I just completed all of my medical training in Arkansas. I went to college in Oklahoma. I grew up in Illinois, and it turns out that I was fortunate enough to be born in a suburb where I attended what is now the #1 school district in the country. So let me be the first to tell you, after growing up 0 to 18 in a community based around something that would produce the #1 school district in the country, and then 18 to 32 down in rural America, it's not the same book. And if it did take the cutting of SNAP benefits for you to finally open your eyes and recognize that maybe you're not understanding, maybe you didn't know, maybe you weren't paying attention, I'm so sorry that nobody ever told you that it is not your fault. It is not your fault. What we seem to not understand about the hardcore red states that are based around these rural Americans that are fighting for gun rights, abortion laws, anti-LGBTQ+, we are not in the same universe. Even the algorithms on the phones are not the same. States that are most notoriously hardcore for DJT are the same states that suffer from the highest levels of adverse childhood experiences in the worst ways. The chronic stress that is experienced by rural Americans is something that I could probably and should write a book about. Generations of families that have relied on disability because they were a blue-collar worker and were injured on the job, that relied on SNAP benefits because they've gone through 4 generations of people who were pregnant at 14 years old because we don't teach sex ed. These people did not receive the same education as most other people in this country because they don't value it, because it takes their kids and their families away. Like, okay, when I went to college in Oklahoma, all of these other people in my class, it was so clear that not only was their early education not even close to what I received, especially in the way that they would write. I would read people's essays and I would be like, oh. Meanwhile, in my high school, we had to write a 16-page research paper junior year, which, by the way, I wrote on how absolutely ridiculous and exclusive George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind freaking was. You're not understanding that the government is lying to you and manipulating you by using your religion against you. They know they can garner your support in how you approach the values you hold in your religious beliefs, while behind the scenes, they're absolutely destroying any possibility that you, your family, your future generations have at living good lives. And I don't want this to be offensive, because I do understand that Southern culture, Southern pride, these generations have also been built strongly around resilience in different ways. But at the end of the day, you live in a state where 1 in 4 children goes to bed hungry every single night, and you're actively supporting the same exact person who is going to make that probably 1 in 2 next month, right before the holidays. If you want God to show up in your community, if you want to truly base all of your political decision-making around being a godly Christian or a godly individual, the only way to do that would be to wholeheartedly support anything that improves the communities that rural Americans are living in. It would be supporting things that provide them with basic human needs, especially under the assumption that we are already in a highly impoverished places in the United States where there has not been much opportunity at all, that is full of people who are already impacted by living a life of chronic stress, now has these same states with the sickest people in America, with the highest numbers of chronic illnesses. This is all interrelated.
Now, that lady you just heard, her name is Caitlin. And I noticed a lot of people in her comments didn't agree with her take, especially that part where she said this wasn't an open book test. But honestly, from a psychological perspective, I get exactly where she's coming from. Because what she's saying isn't really about politics, it's about perception. She's right when she points out just how deeply impoverished some of these pro-Trump communities really are, and how the book they're reading from is completely different from the rest of the world's. See, people in MAGA country and people outside of it, they're living in parallel universes. The algorithms they consume are different, the media they trust is different, and their definition of truth has been personalized to fit their bias. It's like two Americas scrolling through completely different realities. And that gap is only getting wider, especially now that the social platforms most folks use to get their information are either being dismantled, sold, or censored by political power players who'd rather control the narrative than fix the mess. You can guess who I'm talking about. A certain prime minister from you-know-where who seems a little too eager to play social media hall monitor. Here's the deal, though. Maybe FAFO isn't such a bad thing. Maybe sometimes people actually need to mess around and hit rock bottom before they finally realize they've been reading from the wrong book all along. But, and this is the key part, it only works if they learn from it. FAFO only works if the FO part rewires the brain. Otherwise, it's just the same test with different excuses. And I get it, the human brain is incredibly programmable. Between algorithmic reinforcement, emotional conditioning, and identity-based tribalism, people can be trained to believe almost anything. But even with that understanding, I still find it wild that so many of these self-proclaimed Christians, people who swear up and down that they follow the teachings of Jesus, have such a hard time grasping the simplest command. Be good to people. Feed the hungry. Care for the sick. Love your neighbor. These aren't radical ideas, they're the foundation of basic decency. Yet somehow, they've twisted faith into this thing that justifies cruelty. They'll donate to the church but mock the poor. They'll sing about grace while voting against compassion. It's moral gymnastics at Olympic levels. And now, they're slowly realizing, painfully, publicly, that the man they trusted to save America is the same one auctioning off the foundation brick by brick. So yeah, maybe FAFO is the lesson of the decade. Maybe this is the wake-up call America needed, because eventually you run out of excuses, you run out of scapegoats, and you're forced to face the truth. You can't build heaven on hate. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Do you think these people will ever truly wake up, or are they too deep in the algorithm to find their way out? If you made it this far, thank you for watching, thinking, and staying sane in a world that rewards neither. Hit that like button to help others find this video, and as always, I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, wisdom isn't about reading the right book. It's about knowing when it's time to close the wrong one.